Good afternoon, folks. How are you?
Afternoon.
It's summer. You don't know when people are going to show up or not, do we?
Good afternoon.
Hey, Joan.
No. Patty, I just booked a flight to Nashville
You did? When are you going in?
on the 20th, leaving the 23rd.
Nice.
I need to be home for dinner on the 23rd because that's Brandy's birthday.
Well, that's great. You're ready to be the moderator. So Joan and I were invited to speak at a conference in Nashville for the Tennessee Community Organization, something like that. They're the IDD trade association in Tennessee, and we've been working with them for the past couple of months on a few projects related to their waiver. So they thought we would do good and to be there. So are you taking your significant other with you?
No, he doesn't want to go. It's just me.
Just you?
No, he'll
Very
stay
good.
home with the dog.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you did it. I saw some emails coming in from Carmen. I just haven't gotten to them.
Yeah, I'm going to work on that this afternoon, the information she wants from me.
Hey, Tiana, who else are we expecting today? Do you know?
Hold on a second here. I got to admit somebody and then I can take a look. It looks as if. Joe, who's on. It looks like Nicole Buckley was going to be joining from Beechwood. Suzanne's on. Melva was planning on coming. Melissa Gonzalez, Teen, Holly, LaCour, I hope I'm saying her last name correctly, Brandy Linder, Bridget.
Let's give them a couple more minutes, just in case. I don't know about you, but if a storm just moved into our area and it's got like it turned from bright sunshine to total darkness.
We did the same thing here.
There's Drew, there is Melissa, there's Bridget, there's Nicole, yay.
I just got a notice, severe storms on the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it got pretty dark out here and it just,
That's what I was gonna say. It just got really dark here too.
yeah.
You just had a brief shower and now the sun's out. Mechanicsburg.
It's coming. Drew, where are you?
Today in Philadelphia.
All right. So you get the same stuff I do.
Mm.
All right. So we have what it looks like. I'm sure can everybody see who's on? It's a smaller group than we usually do. And we have a bunch of updates to provide for you that Joan and I will tag team on. She's going to be surprised when I say, Joan, can you take this? But I wanted to start with any CHC updates from you guys, any changes that you're seeing or hearing regarding the contracting process. I heard that in a couple of the other services, the MCOs are sending out renewed CHC contracts effective, that, you know, they're in the cycle, particularly of organizations that where they're re-upping their contracts. They're the same contracts, but they're just putting them out through the end of 2022 is what I'm hearing. Has anybody heard any other CHC or contract updates?
We had that, but I think that came through a little while ago,
Okay.
like a couple months ago.
Yeah, so
And
there,
it was the same thing where it was just redid the existing contract.
yeah, I haven't heard them doing anything about pulling back contracts or anything along those lines, but they are doing renewals. So, you know, if your organization, depending on which zone you're in and which phase you entered, because essentially a year ago at this time is when continuity of care ended. So it's hard to believe that it's been a whole year. So, but it's they are, on the other hand, we're hearing that they are talking to folks in the PAS world in particular on pilots, things that they want to get the providers to give them data on. But the only one that we have heard about there where there is actual payment is a pilot that Pennsylvania Health and Wellness is conducting, where they are identifying consumers who have comorbidities, essentially high hours, as well as having multiple diagnoses, diabetes, congestive heart failures, and so on, that are at risk of hospitalization. And they're paying providers $45 to provide them what they're calling gap reporting, so that they are for every report they provide, they get $45, and it's to make sure that they're getting their medication compliance and they're getting their updated diabetes measurements and so on. Now, it's interesting, and I just found this out, I haven't had a chance to verify it, that for particularly congestive heart failure and for diabetes, Medicare would actually pay up to $60 for reporting of those the key health indicators around that. So some of you may know more about this than I do. But the consumers who are included in the Pennsylvania Health and Wellness pilot are all part of the DSNP that Pennsylvania Health and Wellness has. So they're essentially using the CHC providers to collect data that could be billable under Medicare. So, and we haven't verified that they're billing it. So but the skeptic and doubter in me just jumps to that conclusion. So, with good reason, right, Bridget? So, but that's the only significant update, and we're keep ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I did get something from UPMC saying that they're having a meeting next week. And I'm just looking, the topics to include: a focus on APS critical incident reporting training, service coordination updates, network updates, community health choices, employment concierge initiative, and missed shift reporting refresher. So I don't know that that's, I think, kind of standard stuff, but.
Yeah. And Joan, you probably, I don't know if you've heard anything about there was a pilot that had been started by UPMC a while back that what was focused on EVV utilization and missed shift reporting and PAS. UPMC appears to have identified those two as the significant indicators of quality that they want to start with. And the reason, frankly, it's they know they have the data. They don't have to wait for provider data to do this. So because they do use HHA. One last piece of update is that I have is regarding the transition for consumer directed services. As many of you may have heard, PPL will be fading out of the Pennsylvania market at the end of this calendar year. The MCOs have been granted the opportunity to manage that contract as an administrative service. So they moved the 30-some million dollars that were being spent on the administrative portion of the PPL contract and have allowed the MCOs to administer it in-house as a contract, as an administrative contract. And interestingly, the three MCOs together awarded their business to a recently acquired division by HHA Exchange. HHA Exchange is the platform that the PAS providers are using for receiving their authorizations as well as reporting and billing in most cases. So this is connected to that, and just, the web just gets tighter and tighter. So, but that's that CHC update. Anything else from you folks? We are in conversations with all three of them to say what they want to put for their VBB plan, and I do not have an update on that. All three of them says, yes, we want to do this. Yes, we want to do it for 2022. And whether it's summer or they still don't know what they're doing, they're being very closed-mouthed about it, and not for lack of trying. Yes, Bridget, go ahead.
I have a question, just a point of clarification. Can you repeat what you said about, or did you say that the misshift reporting is the QA that they're looking for PAS only, or is it for all services? Like,
as far as I know, just for PAS.
that was the impression that I got, that it was only PAS, but
Only PAS. It's
Okay.
an indicator that has been part of the home health portion of in-home delivered care. So the MCOs have that information because of the authorizations, obviously, in the plan. And so I think it's an indicator of utilization management.
it's really crazy to me. And I just think it's important for you to understand, because if it does come up in your conversations, the CRT is listed as part of that home health system. And oftentimes we have service coordinators who think that it is the same as PAS. And, we have a number of cases where a service coordinator will authorize 12 hours a week and will say, we only want 3 hours. And so now it goes in the system where we've got enough to do 12 hours, but we're not using that. So I don't want that to kind of come back on us as missed shifts. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally understand what you're saying. And I would document and clarify and write and describe and do everything you can in your record keeping because the way they have come in and requested information on this, Bridget, is they will flag the consumer as, they flag an agency first as having a very high number of missed shifts, under significant underutilization. And they go in on the premise of, I'm sorry, this is the rain. If it's too annoying, I'll figure out, I'll put on my headset. Just let me know. They'll go in and request the information for why there were so many under-delivered hours, on the premise that it's person-centered and they want to make sure that it's appropriately managed. And then they take the next step of, if you can provide documentation, then their initial reaction, and non-punitively, is to say, good, so the consumer only needs 3 hours. Let's adjust the plan to have it be 3 hours with no consequence, essentially. Wow, a pretty big storm. Let me plug myself in so that you guys don't hear it, sorry. And then the next factor is that, if they find that this is another indicator of the agency having a bunch of these hours, they tend to go back and look at more records, but early is an indicator, not as a punitive measure to begin with.
Okay.
Joan, is there anything, have you heard differently, Joan or Melissa?
I have not, but I would underscore Fatty's advice to you to document. And then when the question comes up, you have what you need to have the conversation, and, going back to when it occurred and what you did about it, and, everything you will need to straighten that out if they have a misconception about what's going on.
Okay. I know these are big things, but they seem to all be moving to that next level of looking to look for measures of things that they can track, rather than asking you for data. So, and especially those of you who are delivering services in the home versus delivering them in a center setting, you probably want to have additional diligence on that one. Okay.
I agree with all that. And I also think we should probably put that on our agenda for our next brain injury committee meeting, so everybody is aware, and so that everybody makes a note to do that.
Yeah. And Melissa and I are trying to make sure we don't overlap the same content with these two meetings. So but I'm always happy to come and, give you this kind of a market update when, if you need me to. So please ask. And I know Allison and Tiana have put this on my calendar. So, but unless you give me agenda time, I will probably not sit through because you guys discuss a lot of stuff.
Oh, you don't find it informative?
Find it beautiful.
You don't like our charming personalities?
I love your charming personality, especially you, Melissa.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You and I don't spend enough time on Zoom. That's the thing.
Well, I guess.
Hey, so the next segment on the agenda is we provided you a link in the agenda to the MHA presentation that ProVantaCare sponsored at the last board meeting for ProVantaCare. This is a proprietary document. Please treat it as such. You are here because you're an owner, part of an ownership organization of ProVantaCare. Please do not share this with your friends outside our little cloister world. But the HMA presentation had 4 objectives that we set out for them to do. This, by the way, we provided the presentation and Tiana can give you a copy of the 2-hour recording if you are so inclined to do. It's good. It's good. It's excellent content. You will find that and I wanted to share it with you specifically for some pieces that I think are relevant for ProVantaCare. The board and back in May decided that we want to initiate a strategic planning process. And for that, we formed a committee. Some of your organizations are on it, and we're starting that process. In order to kick it off, we wanted an external view of the landscape in Pennsylvania for the businesses that ProVantaCare is involved in. So because everybody listens to Melissa and Joan and Richard and Fatty, and I think we create our vision of the world after a while. So we wanted to make sure that as we are looking into the how we move this organization forward, that we would not just have this limited view. So we sought out HMA. Some of you may have worked with HMA before. They're a national consulting firm, does amazing work in Medicare and Medicaid. And for this particular assignment, we were fortunate to have 4 very key players who know the Pennsylvania market well. The group was led by Kevin Hancock from OLTL, recently retired from OLTL. And he's now, by the way, out of jail. He can actually talk to people at the state. He's been gone for a year. It's hard to believe. So Kevin was leading the group. And some of you know Juliette Marcella, who used to be actually one of the owners in ProVantaCare as a service coordinator provider. And then we had a subject matter expert on behavioral health and subject matter expert on IDD. And the presentation mapped out both the outlook for Pennsylvania for value-based payments and managed care in general, but also went into some details particularly in behavioral health, where there are some good models across the country of behavioral health value-based payment programs that have been actually in place for a while and that are starting to deliver results. We thought, starting in with the LTSS segment, where obviously this is where we compete, this is where what matters to us most. Please listen to Kevin's segment of the presentation. He provided an outlook of his perspective with the relationship with the state, as well as his knowledge of the contracting process, that the CHC MCOs are now at the stage where not only do they want to, but they have to implement forms of value-based payments, that the CHC MCOs are demonstrating a very reserved level of participation in the development of these programs, because the alignment between physical health and LTSS is limited, but that they are more likely to see performance pay type of contract rather than risk sharing contract. And he elaborated on that pretty deeply, but does not see any lessening influence of the MCO's ability to drive the measures for value-based payments or or the level of control they have over it, but also doesn't see it as an option anymore. So he's like, well, you know, you should be getting these things in place, unless your individual providers are going directly to the MCOs. The MCOs will resist working with a group. He was upfront about that because they know that they have a lesser level of leverage, but but nonetheless, he sees this as a necessary next step for them to undertake. And honestly, in the follow-up recap, said to us things like, well, they'll resist working with you as a group because they would rather work with Adam alone and Joe alone and Brandy alone, than because they put you under a non-disclosure when they start those conversations, and you can't tell the rest of us what they're paying you or what they're asking you to do. So that it shifts the leverage very substantially. But I'm going to stop. Hey, Joan or Melissa, you guys were there. Any other significant areas that this group would want to hear about at this stage?
I don't have anything else to add to that.
Melissa, okay.
Oh, sorry, I forgot I was muted.
But I saw your head shaking, so
Oh, okay.
I
So you
even-
heard the- you
I
heard the
even-
rocks flying
you know
around.
what? I haven't lost all my social skills in since COVID. I recognize cues when people frown at me. I recognize they're not
Yes,
happy.
no.
So,
Hey, Fatty, I have a
yeah.
question. Did you say there was a presentation? Because all I'm seeing is the 37-page document in the
well,
agenda.
the 37-page document is a presentation.
Oh, so when you say the part that Kevin did, what part was that?
Well, Kevin presented the materials on LTSS and the setup, but that a lot of Kevin's content was presented more orally, and he had a couple of pages that were the specific segment of the presentation that he contributed in terms of slides, but he gave a lot of the background. That's why I said maybe worth it for you to even listen to that first 30 minutes of the
Where is
presentation.
that? That's what I'm asking. Can't see it anywhere.
Tiana can provide you that link. We have
Thank
not
you.
distributed the audio link to everybody.
Thank you, Tiana.
Okay. If anybody else wants it, please ask Tiana. We didn't want to block up your, or we already appear as spam in many of these places. But if you want it, we're happy to share it with you. The part that I think is very interesting, and I would love for you guys to help with that, is that there were the models that were presented for the behavioral health side were very robust. They provided about 7 or 8 models that have so many analogous positions to what we are dealing with with brain injury, because of the complex needs that are being those models are measuring. And I'd like you to, let me ask the question, then put it differently. If this group is interested, I think it's worth it for us to have a separate meeting specifically around reviewing those models, and whether we come prepared for it in terms of having listened to the presentation. And by the way, Art, while not currently contracted with us for this, is available to come in for a 1 hour if we need him to. The gentleman who presented this, he'd be available to come to us and answer questions. So, and I'm happy to make that happen if we need to, but I don't want to engage him to come back unless you folks really think it's something we want to do. thoughts? Do you want to review it and let
Yeah,
me know?
I'd
Yeah,
like to take a look at it.
Brandy, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys, if you're interested, we'll bring him back to do, to help us connect the dots, but I didn't want to go hire him and pay him to come for an hour and he repeats the spiel that he gave us once. And we all say, thank you very much. But if you're interested, we can make it happen. I mean, I'm personally interested, but I work for you guys. Okay. Excellent. But by the way, we got very good feedback from the board members who participated. We've gotten where the IDD and behavioral health work groups for ProVantaCare are using this as a starting document and a number of their work areas that they're working on. So, and I know some of you, I see Steve just joined us. Some of you are part of those groups too. So feel free to help us bridge the gaps. Because if you're sitting in both groups, you might be hearing stuff that Fatty forgets to connect the dots on. Okay.
Patty, is there anybody else from Woods that is sitting on the IDD or the mental health?
I do not think so. Do we have any? I don't think Woods is either in either of those work groups, but if you're interested, or if I know if somebody's interested from Woods, we're welcome to have them join.
All right, no, I just thought that Ryan Garrison might have been involved in some of it. Does that name ring a bell?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right.
And you know what? Part of it, Brandy, is at least in the last 3-4 weeks, summer has had a way of dissipating some of the participation.
Hey, Fatty,
Yeah.
just as an FYI, Ryan is on the email list for the behavioral health work group.
Okay. So maybe we'll give him a nudge to remind him. So. Okay. All right. And obviously Teen is on the board, so she's familiar with some of that. So, all right. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? Okay. The next thing that we shared with you is a document of the ProVantaCare response to the ARP funds that may be made available as part of the 10% FMAP that the feds have made available to the states. I know many of you have been involved in these conversations. Brief recap. The feds said they want to give the states up to 10% FMAP of the dollars that were spent during the emergency, during the COVID emergency, March 20 through May 21st, 21, I'm sorry. And based on that, there was an estimated number of dollars that would become available to the state. This first point of clarification: when the state gets the money, the state and the legislature get to decide what to do with that money. We can only make requests, and none of it is FMAP in the traditional sense that we would think of it as aligned for the dollars of services that we provided. So our first ask, and everybody's first ask, well, you know how much we billed during the emergency? Give us the 10%, right? So, and let us do what we want with it. I doubt that's gonna happen. There's a strong reservation, obviously, with a legislature that is looking to manage the next 2 years of this administration carefully, to how much of these monies will actually flow to the providers. The state was required to respond to CMS, and then they gave us 10 days, 10, 12 days prior to July 6th to respond to them with what we think we should use the money for. So while other groups were able to gather and we got a bunch of input from folks, ProVantaCare took a slightly different position than you would normally take when you are a trade association with the RCPA. So I know that Melissa had to jump off, but Joan and Melissa wrote segments that were, and we'd be happy to get you the RCPA response because you're obviously RCPA members, that took the position of essentially pure advocacy, right? This is what trade associations do. Give us money. We want better rates. We want to protect the most vulnerable, exactly what we all in our heart want. But ProVantaCare has the objective of generating contracts as a business entity for you guys as providers who are invested in this entity. So our approach to it was to support the fact that, you know, rates need to be improved as soon as possible, and people, you know, everybody's behind the 8 ball, but to then focus on the aspects that we could help with as an entity by getting funding for pilot programs, by getting pilots for the opportunity to demonstrate certain things that would provide better performance and better efficiency in the way Medicaid dollars are spent. So I say that because when you read the documents, you say, you know, what's going on in Fatty's head? Why would he write a response that is one-time funding when, you know, we need long-term fixes? We do need long-term fixes. But so the responses were written around the premise that there are pieces of the work we do that need to be supported to elevate, either by building infrastructure, establishing support, communication for data, creating data sharing systems that provide for the ability to move towards value-based payments, which is one of the areas they want to do. So as I don't know if you've had a chance to read the document. It's not that long. If you want to take a minute to scan it, you know, I think it might be worth it for you to see if you want to ask questions or have further discussion on this. Obviously, we advocated for the groups, the brain injury groups, specifically in being funded for demonstrations associated with value-based payments and in enhancing quality of care. But I personally don't think that the state is going to give this money for any long-term rate improvement per se. So Joan, I don't know, do you want to chime in on this? You wrote the advocacy thing for LTSS.
Yes, so so from the RCPA perspective, you know, we did weigh in on each of the items in the proposed use of the money, and in some cases urge it to go further or to not be limited just to the description that was in the draft. One of the sections the section that dealt with physical disability and aging did support using money for demonstrations, pilots, you know, testing new program models, or, you know, it could even be value-based payment models, you know, as a way to use the funds. So Fatty's point about not tying it up for ongoing, for example, rate increases that survive time period where they have this money to use, this General Assembly is very, very reticent to do that. They feel that Pennsylvania got burned when they did extend some funds during the previous crisis in 2008, 2010, and that they were forced to either continue to cover them or make cuts. And they actually did both. They continued some and they made cuts in others. So they didn't want to be put in that position again. One of the rationales that explains their desire to hold it back and not just dump it into the system in the way of rate increases is the timing. This money can be used, they earn it in a certain time period, that's finite, but once they have it, they earn it, they can use it up until 2024. So that takes us into the next administration, whoever the next governor is. So they want to hold some of this back rather than let it be used at the discretion of the Wolf administration. So that's part of what's playing into what you're saying.
Yeah. Question, and I consider this, I had a conversation with Jamie Buchenauer earlier this week, and she said, Patty, this is the beginning of the journey of how we use these dollars. So I would very much encourage you, if you have the time and energy, to review this document, come back to me with, we think this is a good direction, or you forgot to mention, or you should enhance. This is the beginning of a conversation with the state for getting this money. They've once CMS gives them the approval to proceed, it's going to be, I'm thinking of it more in the terms of a foundation that is available, foundation source of funds that's available to do grants that have a 3-year finite life. And I know many of you have been involved with those kind of grants, and organizations love to hate them and hate to love them, right? Because sometimes you do such a nice job with a demonstration that when they take it away, you say, but I want to keep it alive. And you know what? I'll take 3-year journeys. At this stage, I'll take anybody that gives us something for 3 years, will take it. I'll take it, but you may feel differently. So please share this with the leadership of your organization. Give us feedback. Use ProVantaCare in this alternate approach to the way you're using RCPA. This is as much a different advocacy group than RCPA, because we do have a different reason for existing. And so, I know the traditional sense is we need rates, you're not solving my long-term problem, fix my. I think we have an opportunity to speak with a different voice successfully. And I received a couple of pieces of feedback from folks at the state level who saw our approach. He says, well, that's refreshing. You didn't say just give us all the money. That's what you normally do. So please give us some feedback. But again, beginning of a journey, not the end of the road. And we'll be, to that point, you will also all, before I forget it, you will receive later this week our first attempt at ongoing communications with our various groups across ProVantaCare. There's going to be a newsletter-like document that we're calling Provider Advantage that includes a piece of this. And for you and your colleagues who within your organizations, it might be something to share, because it provides links to these kind of documents when we put them out. And by the way, you're my friends. Why don't you go become my friends on LinkedIn, on our ProVantaCare page, and follow us on our Facebook page for ProVantaCare. I forget to ask that. Come on, we need to show folks that we're real. We're not just like we've got 12 followers. So maybe 15. So questions, thoughts about this ARP response? Does it make sense? Yes, go ahead, Virgin.
I just have one, I don't, maybe I'm confused, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I thought I remembered Jamie saying, maybe at an MLTSS meeting or something, that they do not want to use these monies for things that cannot be financially sustained in the future. So using it to enhance salaries or enhance rates or any of that kind of stuff, if 3 years from now, it's never going to be able to be replicated or
Right.
continued, they do not want to put the money into something like that. So when we're talking about things like that here, I just have to kind of, I guess, spend a little time understanding the difference.
So that's an excellent point. So for example, we're in it, we say, give us money to demonstrate how telehealth services and remote services can be embedded into an ISP with a group of provider or person-centered plan with a group of providers that will give you the data, give you real-time data, help work with you on the results so that, yes, when you come in 2-3 years and say, yes, telehealth is an integral part of how we balance the cost of care, you have data to support that. So it's the demonstrated savings. I mean, I hate to say it, but it may come out of somebody else's skin on this one, right? But if my job is to get you guys more business. So if at the end of the day, you guys are seen as the, and get the services that you want to take forward, you're able to do it. And Adam, I know that New Jersey had this similar conversation. I was on the periphery of a couple of that they're struggling with figuring out how to distribute their share of the money, right?
They're working on it. They got our input and we're just starting to hear back some of the ideas that they have about spending it.
So if you have any ideas we think we should adopt, we're ready to flatter New Jersey.
Well, I'll try. If I find anything, I might have gotten something yesterday. I haven't fully read through. I can forward it over to you.
I would appreciate that. But same, I mean, I know like those of you who work in multiple states have a different visibility. I know Joan and I keep our ear to the ground on some 4 or 5 states where we touch, but there's more information there than we'll ever get, right? So, but again, we want to make sure that we are seen as a helpful agent for change, as opposed to somebody who's just saying, just send me all the money here. So tomorrow morning at the MAC meeting, there is the agenda came out. The agenda says that Jamie Buchenauer is speaking about the utilization of the FMAP dollars. I have attempted to get an early version of the slides unsuccessfully. I plan to be listening to that tomorrow to see what she shares. And as soon as I get that information, I'll disseminate it to you folks. It's the first time that I've seen that item specifically on the agendas. Joan, have you seen it somewhere else, or have Jamie usually repeats her presentations? Is this the first time that you've seen that?
Yeah, I think that's the first unveiling of their thoughts. And you're right, you'll hear it at other meetings she goes to. But as far as an agenda item for the Big Mac, it probably will be on there now for years, because it's such a huge topic, and it's so much money across all the system. It's an unbelievable amount of money. which is the challenge of how do you spend that without putting it into rate.
Unbelievable, folks. This is, is it close to $10 million? No, much more than that. Sorry. It's close to $1.4 billion is with some of the numbers that I've seen.
It's huge.
It's massive.
That's
It
the
is.
state, that's for the state or in total?
That's the portion of the FMAP that they're getting to spend.
Yeah.
So it's not an insignificant amount of money. And as I said to Jamie, I said, all we want is a couple of $100 million of that. We'll make sure we spend it right. So, and they've put a lot of it, frankly, I expected that more of it to go towards the physical health side, but at least the way they sent to the request to CMS, looks like they're really looking at the community side to build up. So we'll see. But I'll keep you posted if I hear anything tomorrow. I'm sorry, let me go back to my agenda so that I don't go on my merry way. The rest of the items we have today are, I want to remind you that we have the PDNA, the Physical Disability and Aging Division meeting on September 9. It's a 1 to 4 meeting in the afternoon. And our next meeting is on August 18th at 3 o'clock. So we'll come back with many of these updates and hopefully more on the contact with the brain injury on contract for CMS with CHC. But I wanted to also put on your calendars the RCPA conference that's coming up towards the end of September. I know many of you already attend and you don't need to be encouraged, but there's going to be a specific block of sessions, whether they put them all together or distribute them, I'm not sure yet. I haven't seen the agenda, that cover value-based payments in a couple of different perspectives. One of them is going to be presented by the National Council on Behavioral Health. Another session is going to be led by Kim Sonnefeld and Sue Steig, who are both involved in ProVantaCare, and they'll be presenting on the IDD side. And you get to hear me talk a little bit about something stupid. So you don't want to hear me. So, but the third session is one that I'll be doing. So, it's a hybrid conference. It'd be great to see some of you in person. We're going to be at the Hershey Lodge, and I just checked, their bar is already open. So I know that it'll be there. We never hang out at that bar at all. So, but I hope we're all safe enough to feel safe enough that we can go. And I made my reservations. I hope that the registration will come out at the end of the month. And we hope that we can sign up for that. What else can I answer for you guys? And is there any other topic we need to bring up? All righty then. Thank you very much. Please review the ARP document. And if there's anything you can share with me on it, we'd be happy to take it forward. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Bye.
Have a good afternoon.
Good afternoon.